Who shot JR? Do you know the answer yet? Back in the 80s, this question wasn't just a TV cliffhanger, it was a national obsession that even managed to steal the spotlight from a presidential election. The 80s were the moments of history, the cultural icons. But were these beloved shows as flawless as we remember, or were they hiding secrets we'd rather not know? Let's dive in. The A-Team. 4 ex-soldiers, 1 iconic black van, and a mission to fight injustice, all while dodging authorities. This was the action show of the 80s, full of daring escapes, over-the-top explosions, and a whole lot of attitude. Leading the team was Hannibal, the cigar-smoking mastermind who always had a plan. Then there was Faceman, the smooth-talking charmer who could con his way out of anything. Murdoch, the unhinged yet lovable pilot, kept things unpredictable, while B.A. brought the muscle and a legendary fear of flying. With his gold chains, mohawk, and "I pity the fool," he became a global sensation. Mr. T, who was playing B.A., was discovered by Sylvester Stallone at a bodyguard competition. The guy practically invented cool. And did you know the A-Team was once accused of glorifying violence despite being one of the least bloody action shows ever? The A-Team was literally banned in Sweden for being too violent, even though no one ever seemed to bleed. From action-packed missions to heartwarming family moments, let's shift gears and dive into the Keaton family drama that defined the generational divide in family ties. Ah yes, family ties. This was a battle of ideals wrapped up in humor, heart, and a lot of 80s fashion. At its core, it was the story of the Keaton family, where 2 hippie parents faced the ultimate challenge, raising a Reagan-loving, capitalism-obsessed teenager. Yep, we're talking about Alex P. Keaton, played by none other than young Michael J. Fox. Alex was the kind of character you loved and rolled your eyes at simultaneously. His sharp wit, love for suits, and obsession with Wall Street made him the poster child of the 80s conservatism, which hilariously clashed with his parents, Elise and Stephen Keaton, former flower children who couldn't believe their son was quoting Ronald Reagan at the dinner table. Then there was Mallory Keaton, Alex's fashion-obsessed sister, who often became the butt of his jokes. And let's not forget Jennifer Keaton, the sarcastic, no-nonsense younger sibling, who often brought the entire family back to reality. From politics to relationships to teen rebellion, Family Ties struck a perfect balance between comedy and emotional depth. And honestly, who didn't feel a pang of sadness during those heavy moments accompanied by the show's heartfelt theme song, Without Us? But here's a twist. Michael J. Fox wasn't even the first choice for Alex. The producers thought he didn't have a leading man potential. Yeah, tell that to Back to the Future. But he ended up winning 3 Emmys for his performance, proving that sometimes the underdog truly does win. But did you know that Tom Hanks guest starred as Elise's alcoholic brother? Yep, a future A-lister made his mark on this family-friendly show. And now that we've explored family hilarity, let's switch to another household with a comedic twist and a legacy of its own. It's time to visit the Huxtables. The Cosby Show. Now let's talk about The Cosby Show, a true game-changer in TV history. At a time when sitcoms were all about slapstick humor and over-the-top characters, this show brought something fresh, a warm, funny, and realistic portrayal of an African-American family navigating life with love and laughter. The Huxtable family was aspirational. Dr. Cliff Huxtable was the hilarious sweater-loving patriarch who balanced being a successful obstetrician with being a goofy dad. His wife, Claire, was an attorney and absolute queen of wit, charm, and I'm not putting up with your nonsense energy. Together, they raised 5 kids, each with their own quirks. From Theo, the lovable but not so academically inclined son, to Denise, the free spirit who marched to her own beat. The Huxtable kids brought relatable family dynamics to the screen. And who could forget Rudy, the adorable youngest sibling who melted everyone's hearts. The Cosby Show tackled everything from teen struggles to college dreams to marriage, all while subtly addressing social issues. It showed an affluent African-American family excelling in their careers and raising their kids with love and discipline, a narrative rarely seen on TV at that time. The Cliffs' iconic sweaters became so famous that they're now part of pop culture history. They were even auctioned off for charity. Of course, the show's legacy has been overshadowed by controversy surrounding Bill Cosby, but its cultural impact on television and representation remains undeniable. Speaking of memorable families, how about a crime-fighting duo with high-tech gear? If there's one thing Knight Rider gave us, it was the ultimate in coolness. A man with a mission, a talking car, and high-tech gadgets that were way ahead of their time. Michael Knight wasn't just your average crime fighter. He was a former cop turned vigilante, taking on dangerous criminals with the help of KITT, short for Knight Industries 2000, the car that could talk, think, and even drive itself. Seriously, KITT was like the Siri of the 80s, but with way more horsepower. What made this show stand out was the relationship between Michael and KITT. The car was a companion, a partner, and sometimes even a hero in its own right. KITT had all sorts of impressive tech, from turbo boost that made the car fly over ramps to infrared sensors that could see in the dark. It was like having your own personal superhero, but on wheels. Michael Knight, with his perfectly styled hair and leather jacket, took on missions for the Foundation for Law and Government, an organization dedicated to fighting injustice. One of the most iconic elements? The opening theme song. With its upbeat synth beats and catchy tune, it was nearly impossible not to get pumped for each episode. Here's a little nugget of trivia for you though. Did you know that David Hasselhoff almost did not get the role for Michael Knight? The producers initially wanted a different actor, but they ended up giving Hasselhoff the role because of his charisma. He went on to become the face of the show, with KITT just being as memorable. And would you believe that KITT was inspired by an actual car? Well, kind of. The car used in the show was a modified 1982 Pontiac Trans Am, and it had gadgets that made us all wish that we could have one parked in our own driveway. From talking cars to witty banter in a Boston bar, let's step into Cheers and find out why everyone still wants to know your name. Grab a seat, because Cheers is about to take you back to one of the most iconic spots in TV history, a Boston bar where everyone knows your name. The show was about the relationships that formed between the quirky characters who made this bar their second home. From the banter to the romance and the endless drama, Cheers served up something everyone could enjoy. At the heart of the show was Sam Malone, a former baseball player turned bar owner who was as charming as he was flawed. His best friend, Norm Peterson, the lovable beer-loving regular who could walk in and be greeted by a chorus of Norm every single time. But Sam's real challenge, the centerpiece of many storylines, was his on-again, off-again relationship with Diane Chambers, a sophisticated and idealistic waitress who always seemed to bring chaos into Sam's life. Then there was Carla Tortelli, the sassy, sarcastic bartender whose sharp tongue and wit kept everyone on their toes. And let's not forget Fraser Crane, the pompous yet lovable psychiatrist who found himself mixing with the bar's ragtag group, offering advice that literally no one asked for and causing endless hilarious drama. What made Cheers stand out was the warmth of the relationships between the characters. The theme song, Unforgettable, where everyone knows your name, echoed the sentiment of a show that turned a simple bar into a place of belonging. And the witty banter? Let's just say Cheers was a masterclass in clever one-liners and quick comebacks that never got old. Funny enough, the show's writers created many of the famous lines just by letting the actors improvise. Some of the best moments were completely unscripted. After Shelley Long left the show, many fans feared it would never be the same. But Cheers proved that the magic of the bar wasn't just about one relationship. It was about the whole group of lovable misfits. Bar banter is great, but nothing beats coming-of-age nostalgia. Get ready to step back in time with Kevin Arnold in the Wonder Years. It is one of those shows that hits you right in the feels, taking you back to the late 60s and early 70s through the eyes of Kevin Arnold. As he navigates the ups and downs of adolescence in suburban America, viewers are treated to a funny and at times heart-wrenching look at growing up. With its perfect blend of nostalgia, humor, and real-life struggles, it's no wonder that the show remains so beloved. At the core of the show is Kevin's relationship with his family. His father, Jack Arnold, was the classic blue-collar dad, tough but loving, and his mother, Norma Arnold, was the ever-supportive, no-nonsense mom who could always be counted on for a word of wisdom. What made the Wonder Years stand out was the unforgettable voice narration by Daniel Stern, who lent Kevin's thoughts an authenticity that felt like an intimate conversation with an old friend. From the Vietnam War to the Civil Rights Movement, the show did not shy away from tackling serious topics, yet it also balanced these moments with everyday struggles and triumphs of being a teenager, first crushes, school drama, and the challenges of growing up. The show was set during a time when Kevin was just discovering who he was, but it was also a time when the country was going through some pretty huge changes. And did you know that the producers used a mix of original music and classic hits from the era to make sure that the show felt authentic to the period? Incredible stuff. But now it's time to get away from the heartfelt lessons and move on towards the full-blown laughter. Let's join the Tanner family for some unforgettable moments in Full House. What secrets did this show leave behind? It is a warm hug from the 80s and 90s, bringing to life the classic family sitcom. The premise is simple yet heartwarming. A widowed father, Danny Tanner, raising his 3 daughters with the help of his brother-in-law, Jesse, and his best friend, Joey. The show starts with Danny raising his daughters after the death of his wife. To help him out, Danny's 2 trusty sidekicks, Jesse, the cool, leather jacket-wearing Elvis impersonating rock musician, and Joey, the goofy comedian, move in to provide moral support and plenty of laughs. But it wasn't just the family drama that kept viewers coming back. Full House had a signature blend of comedy and sentimentality that resonated with audiences of all ages. And let's not forget the theme song, Everywhere You Look, which instantly takes you back to a simpler time. The catchy tune still sticks in your head long after the show ends, making you hum the words every time someone mentions Full House. But did you know that the iconic twin character of Michelle Tanner was played by both Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen? The twins would alternate in playing Michelle, which is why it sometimes felt like she was in 2 places at once. The Full House almost didn't make it to the small screen. Initially, the producers weren't sure if the show would click, but after a few adjustments, it became one of the most beloved family sitcoms of all times. And speaking of secrets, now it's time to dive into the oil-slick drama and shocking cliffhangers of Dallas. Can you handle the scheming and suspense ahead? It was the kind of show that had everyone talking, literally. If you weren't watching it, you were at least hearing about it, and the buzz around the show reached a fever pitch. Focusing on the ultra-wealthy Ewing family and their oil empire, Dallas quickly became a cultural phenomenon filled with backstabbing, love triangles, and jaw-dropping cliffhangers. For over a decade, the Ewings kept us on the edge of our seats, making us question the limits of family loyalty and just how far people would go to protect their fortune. At the heart of Dallas was the scheming and ruthless J.R. Ewing, the oil tycoon, who was so infamous for his manipulative ways that he became a household name. On the other side of the family was the more virtuous brother, Bobby Ewing, who tried to balance the family's business with his own moral compass. And then there was Sue Ellen Ewing, JR's long-suffering wife, who had her own set of troubles from dealing with JR's unfaithfulness to battling her own demons with alcohol. What made Dallas a staple in the 80s wasn't just the outrageous drama, however. The iconic Who Shot JR cliffhanger in the 1980s became one of the most famous TV moments in history. That single question dominated every conversation, and the reveal when it finally happened became history. People went crazy. After all that drama, it's time to switch to a man who solves problems with his brain and a Swiss Army knife. Are you ready for MacGyver? You won't believe what he can make. MacGyver was the ultimate show for anyone who ever thought, I could totally save the day with a paperclip and a stick of chewing gum, right? This iconic series follows Angus MacGyver, a secret agent with a knack for using everyday items to get out of the tightest situations. MacGyver was all about brain and a whole lot of creativity. What made MacGyver so unforgettable was his ability to think on his feet. The character was super charming, keeping everyone up to watch it. But did you know that Richard Dean Anderson actually had to improvise on set? He was often given props which weren't quite what they seemed, and some of the gadgets MacGyver used were just repurposed items from the set. Now that's some real-life MacGyvering for you. But these ingenious gadgets are nothing in front of the life of luxury. Let's visit Ricky Stratton and Silver Spoons and see how the other half lives. Ever wonder what happened to all those arcade games? If you ever dreamed of growing up in a mansion with an arcade in the living room, then Silver Spoons was the show for you. This lighthearted sitcom follows the story of Ricky Stratton, a young boy who moves in with his wealthy playboy father, Edward Stratton II, after his mother's passing. The relationship between Ricky and his father was the heart of the show. One of the biggest draws of Silver Spoons was the iconic arcade in the Stratton mansion, which quickly became synonymous with the show. The arcade was part of the Stratton family dynamic, plus it gave us some serious childhood envy, with a game room that most of us could only hope to have one day. But what about the secret reason Silver Spoons became a hit in the first place? It was a real-life inspiration from one of the creators' personal lives. Who would have thought? But now it's time to put the luxury and laughs aside and navigate the ups and downs of raising kids. Let's meet the Seaver family in Growing Pains. Could this be the most relatable sitcom yet? If you ever wanted to see what it was like to grow up in a quirky, lovable family, Growing Pains was the sitcom to watch. The show followed the Seaver family dynamic. The oldest son, Mike Seaver, was a rebellious teen who constantly found himself in trouble. Whether he was dealing with his teenage crushes, trying to outsmart his parents, or navigating the usual growing pains of adolescence, Mike had us rooting for him. And then there was Ben Seaver, the middle child, and Carly Seaver, the youngest. Both characters brought their own unique energy to the show, whether they were competing for attention or learning important life lessons. Of course, the show was more than just a sitcom. It also marked the rise of Kirk Cameron. While he played the charming yet mischievous Mike Seaver, he was becoming a rising star in real life as well. As the show progressed, Kirk's fame soared, and he became a teen heartthrob of the 80s. But while Growing Pains was a huge hit, did you know that it almost didn't happen? The show went through some major changes before it finally got the green light. The original concept for the show was drastically different from what we got to see on the final screen. Next up, it's time to join Tony Micheli as he redefines roles in Who's the Boss. What made this show such a groundbreaking hit? If you ever thought about what would happen if a former baseball player became a housekeeper for a career-driven woman, Who's the Boss was your show. This quirky sitcom followed the life of Tony, a widowed ex-baseball player who moves from Brooklyn to Connecticut to become a live-in housekeeper for Angela Bauer, the successful advertising executive. It was one of the first shows to challenge traditional gender roles and explore the complexities of family life from a refreshing new perspective. Tony's transition from jock to domestic caretaker was about balancing his responsibilities as a dad and housekeeper while working in a female-dominated household. The show explored the growing friendship and eventual romance between Tony and Angela, with plenty of comedic moments sprinkled along the way. Watching Tony, the typical macho man, learn how to balance his newfound domestic life with his personal life was hilarious, heartwarming, and gave us some serious relationship goals in the process. And here's a fun tidbit. The show almost had a completely different ending. What happened behind the scenes to change the course of the finale? Well, you'll be surprised to find out after you watch the show. There's going to be no spoilers here. Now let's leave the ordinary behind and crash land into the outrageous world of Alf. What's the secret behind this quirky alien's endearing charm? What do you get when you mix a quirky alien with a suburban family, a ton of laughs, and a deep love for cats? You get Alf. This comedic sci-fi series introduced us to Alf, short for Alien Lifeform, a wisecracking cat-eating extraterrestrial who crash-landed into the Tanner family's garage. Alf was a charmingly hilarious, totally unfiltered, and sometimes downright reckless alien who quickly became a pop culture icon. The show had all the ingredients for a perfect sitcom. Family dynamics, quirky characters, and Alf's mischievous behavior that never seemed to stop. Alf was the lovable, mischievous uncle everyone wished they had. But did you know that Alf almost didn't get a second season? In fact, there was a major behind-the-scenes issue that almost derailed the entire show. But from Melmac to Miami, it's time to hit the gritty streets with Crockett and Tubbs and Miami Vice. It was the show that defined cool in the 80s. With its neon-lit streets, sleek cars, and heart-pounding action, it became the epitome of everything stylish and gritty about the era. The show followed Sonny Crockett and Ricardo Tubbs, two undercover detectives working the dangerous, drug-riddled streets of Miami. Together, they took on criminals and cartels and corruption, all while living their own complicated personal lives. The show was a visual feast, using bold colors, exotic locations, and cinematic angles that made you feel like you were living the action alongside the detectives. The soundtrack was a game changer, featuring some of the best artists of the 80s, from Phil Collins to Jan Hammer. Crockett and Tubbs were dealing with their own demons, from troubled relationships to constant threat of death that came with their line of work. Miami Vice did not shy away from portraying the dark side of the drug war and the emotional toll it took on its characters. There's an untold story behind the making of Miami Vice that no one talks about. The show almost didn't make it past its first season. The ratings went super low, and eventually, a second season got canceled. But let us know what you think. Which of these iconic 80s shows would you binge watch today if you had the chance? Let us know in the comments below. If these shows sparked your curiosity, be sure to check out our other videos covering other oldies that you might love too. Thank you for watching.